Welcome to IFM.
Thank you.
And good morning.
Good morning, Ray.
You're looking good.
Thank you.
But, I mean, you've achieved all these things. How intentional were you in making sure you get past all these milestones? I use the word intentional because I think it came up in the conversation before.
Yes.
Did you have a plan for all these, or it happened by chance?
Some were planned,
Okay.
some, I chanced upon them as I went through life. But, being intentional, I think, is something that is intrinsic with me.
Yes.
I'm very particular, very self-disciplined. And as you grow, as you mature, you are intentional with, your aspirations, your dream, your career, what you want to do. Some go as planned, some don't. But, as you get there, you overcome the challenges and then you go with it. But, once you read it, I will say, as I said here, I didn't know that was how life was going to go. You want to be something in future, you want to have, live your life in a particular way. But, my guess is once you really are determined, to achieve.
You can get through it.
You can get through it, yeah.
How did it feel growing up as sister number one, big sister amongst four siblings in Tema? Help us understand what kind of family atmosphere you grew in, the kind of things that influenced your growing up back in Tema.
Okay. Yes, so as you mentioned, I grew up in the harbor city of Tema. Tema Day. Yeah, so Tema at that time was just made up of the 12 communities. Sometimes when you talk to communities to people who live in Accra, but Community 1, Community 2.
I honestly wanted to ask that after, because I don't get why you have 12 communities, but you can't have them lined up.
No.
Community 2 is somewhere close to the harbor, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Somewhere around the Beach Road area. And then 12 is somewhere around another place.
The
And
motorway.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's a bit confusing.
Yes,
honestly.
you need to live in Tema to really grasp it. Yes. So it was just made up of the 12 communities, Community 1 to 12. And Tema is an industrial hub.
Yes.
So it's made up beyond the harbor, that is the Gapoha.
Yeah.
We had other industries like Valco, Tor, Mankwaze, the cocoa processing company. And everybody knew everybody at the time.
Yeah.
And parents, in fact, most of our parents migrated to Tema because of work in one industry or another. My father at the time worked at Mankwaze Fisheries.
Okay.
So we all knew each other. We all went to the same kind of schools, and there was a lot of comparison. So in my home, it was a very strict one. My parents were very strict. It was, you knew what you had to do without being told. You knew your chores, and it was, the lesson in that phase of my life was you obey before complain when it comes to your parents.
That's a fancy rule.
If you needed something, you had to make sure your grades were in order. Your behavior was at best. You hadn't
pretty much check yourself before you come request for anything.
Before you ask of anything. So that was the kind of home I grew up in. But as much as my parents created that strict environment, they also did not, especially for me being the first, they did not raise me as your typical woman.
Okay.
Never in my growing years did I even hear that, oh, don't do this or do this because you are a woman.
Okay.
It was always, is this what you want to do? Go for it.
Go for it, yeah.
Is this what you want to do? If you think you can do it, go for it. Do you have somebody who can guide you? Then go for it. So as the first, my role was cut out for me really, really early, because it means you had to be of best behavior. You had to set a very good example. It wasn't a very good thing to do. In fact, there was little room for any mistake in my home as the first child, because what will your brothers think? What will your sister think? It will make them behave the same way. So you need to behave properly. So it was really, really
and I mean, I'm just trying to think about the fact that no one has really been an adult before, and this is you growing, trying your hands at something that is totally new, but you have to be super careful because you can't afford mistakes. Must have been hard.
It was really hard. There wasn't any room for that. So playing the big sister role, I think for me it's quite intrinsic. I see that in both of my kids. Some people are natural born leaders. You see it. I took the role very seriously, you know. And to date, my siblings come to me. We are all adults, you know, with families. They come to me with, you know, trying to find out what they should do at particular points in their lives. I also go to them, and you know, you try and mother them at some point. My brother just told me, "Maame Ekua, don't mother me. I know what I'm doing," and that kind of thing. Wow. So that was the kind
of the kind of atmosphere.
Yes, and also my dad introduced us to sports.
Is it
at a very
what sport did you play?
Not playing sports, watching sports.
Okay.
Watching sports. Okay. So I remember those times when Azuma Nelson used to play in the USA. 2 a.m. we'll be watching.
To watch.
He will wake us up to come and watch.
You wake up,
and then we'll be watching, and then he'll say, "Namo." And Namo go school, and I'm like, "You
woke us up."
And then he'll try and, you know, teach us why he feels, you know, he should have thrown the jab this way. And then football. I remember for the longest time I didn't understand the concept of offside. Why is this an offside? You know, I hear the upcoming, you know, World Cup is going to introduce some technology to determine it. So that was the kind of whom he tried to. So I'm a very sport, you know, I know about sports. I can sit in.
What's your favorite team?
Oh, I knew you were going to. It's Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Don't murder me for that. It's Chelsea.
Are you sure?
I am Chelsea.
You don't want to change your mind?
I am a blue on any day.
I will call you. Don't worry. We'll give you a call. When the going gets tough, we'll give you a call.
Yeah.
What about Ghana? You love
Ghana? Accra has a food.
Accra has a food.
Yeah, any day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I dare not say anything. Yes.
You are red.
I'm being watched.
I can
yes.
tell.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah, you're dumb.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, where I'm from,
No,
we did.
You did.
We did some small problems there, but we did sort them out once we are done. Maame Ekua, tell us, what was your biggest inspiration? What or who was your biggest inspiration as a young woman growing up?
Yeah. Okay, so when I was growing up, naturally your parents are, both my mom and my dad, very strong characters. So, because especially for that type of discipline they instilled in us. But then when I went to school, I don't really remember about what happened in kindergarten or nursery, but in primary school I went to Tema Parents Association School. Was one of the best schools at the times. I know a lot of people will debate it and say no, but I remember my teacher, Mr. Boy.
You remember the names?
Yes.
Perfect.
God bless his soul, he's late now. Very determined. He treated us as if, you know, we were an investment for him. You know, those were the times that you were afraid of your teacher more than you were of even your parents, because they really wanted you to do well. So that was at the time. And then when I went to Aburi Girls, I looked up to a French teacher called Madame Owusuado.
Because you loved French?
Not because I wasn't even a French student. I was a science student. It was only because of she was a young woman, and she had a young family. She lived, you know, on the Aburi campus with us. So we got to grow with her, the way she treated her husband, the way she managed her kids, the way she managed us. And she was so graceful. She had such a poise. I said, she's still like there, you know. When we went back for our 25-year anniversary 3 years ago, I met her. She was so great. So those were the people. They were not your usual strong characters, but I have a thing for personality. You know, when you develop a certain personality trait, you know, I'm sort of drawn to you. So I looked up to her. Madame Owusuado.
Nice.
Shout out to her.
If she's listening, she'll be very proud of you. I'm sure you made this known to her.
Yes, I have.
You did.
Yes.
Perfect. Still on, you know, inspiration and plans about you growing up then, did you have any particular career path? What were your interests beyond sports that, you know, daddy obviously instilled in all of you? Did you have any particular, you know, interest in anything that could lead you to a particular career path? Were you conscious of the career path you wanted to take around that time?
Yeah. So at some point, you know, at that time it was 3 or 4 major things your parents wanted you to accomplish. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, you know, the heavyweights.
Or a pilot.
Oh, a pilot, yes. I remember my brother wanted to be a pilot. So for me, it was always to be a doctor because of that natural care for people. I really, you know, and there was a certain aura surrounding doctors, you know, they came with a certain command and all that. So I knew I wanted to be that. And you know, when you are in primary school, you are told you are intelligent and you don't really understand it. You just make the grades
and pass,
and then pass, and then you go. But you don't really appreciate it until you really recognize it at a certain stage in life. So I knew I wanted to be that. It was later from Aburi when I finished and I was about to enter university that, it all came. Even at a point I changed it anyway because I knew I had to swap. But that was it. I wanted to say something about making grades because I remember in my parents, speech and prize giving day was a big thing because
it still is a big deal.
It still is, and all the parents remember, very small community, everybody know, and they used to compare, very competitive. Thankfully I always came between first and third. One of the times I take my report to my dad, and then he looks at it and he says, I was first, by the way. He says, but the total mark was I think it was supposed to be 800 or 850.
It's eight subjects then, so
yes,
I'm sure it should be
something
800.
around that figure. And then I got just a shy,
points,
points below that. And then he said, but you didn't make all points. I cried my eyes.
This was you topping the class.
Topping the class. I said, what does this man want from me? But you see, the lesson at the time was he was actually giving me a certain level of excellence. That this is how
it's raising the benchmark for
you should raise the bar at everything that you do. So those were the sort of values that were instilled.
What type of students were you back at Aburi?
Aburi girls. If we have to go back to Aburi,
did you have any nicknames before they start sending to me? I'm good with that. My listeners will send it through. You'll be shocked.
Go there. If we have to go back to Aburi, I think we'll spend 3 hours, but I'll try. I think the next phase of my journey, which will be in Aburi Girls for 7 years, defined who I was.
Really?
Yes. I always say it. I say it to my mates. I say it at every platform. Aburi Girls made me, apart from God. Yeah, because that was the first time me going out from home, meeting girls from other parts of the country, beyond Tema and Accra, which I was exposed to. We had girls from Kumasi, all over. They came to Aburi Girls. And we entered Aburi Girls very young. The same Mr. Boy I talked to you about. At the time, the common entrance was about to phase out. So then he comes to, I was in class 5 into my parents, and then we ran 2 streams of class 5. So he just enters you. I think about 5 or 6. Of us,
the best students,
come with me. Notably, probably the best. I didn't even know at the time. He just called. I thought me and my friends, and then he went to the next class, called some girls and some boys. Come with me. You're going to write the common entrance. We didn't understand it. We said no, but we had to get to class 6 before. Said no, there's no time. And it was only recently, just about a week or 2 ago, I was having a chat with my dad, and he said, do you know at the time when he approached me, when your teacher approached me, I told him, you are too young. I can't let this girl go and write this common entrance because it means she's going to boarding school. Yes. She can't. And, Mr. Boy just looked at him and said, what's the worst that can happen?
Oh.
That is what changed my dad's mind. What's the worst that can happen? If she passes, fine. If she doesn't, she goes on to, the carry on with her rest of her education. I wrote, I passed. And at the time, because we were intermal parents, and it wasn't our time, we had to join a school in a monochrome. Okay. On the mountain, we had to wear the brown
big size uniform.
Big size uniform. The kids could see we were not from there. We joined them. We wrote the exam, and then we passed. So I went to Aburi Girls at a very young age.
So you skipped the class ahead of you. 5. Left some of your friends.
Yep, and then went into Aburi Girls. Aburi Girls, it was a whole adventure for me.
Now you have big sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was a whole adventure because even the journey, that time the Tema to Aburi Road wasn't as nice as it is now. It was very, very, climbing the mountain. We didn't have water at the time. So with your barrel of water, with your trunk,
you carry everything along.
Yes. Every 2 weeks for those 7 years, my parents came to me with water. Shout out to them.
Wow. I'm hearing this for the first time.
At the time we did not have water. Aburi has water now. It's a miracle to open the tap and then you get water. We didn't have water.
And how old were you once again? Around this time?
10, 11.
Is it?
Yes. It's when I entered boarding school.
Wow.
Yes.
I perfectly understand you saying it made you, because this is you entering in there around the years you're supposed to pick a lot of things and practice.
Yes.
And it was all at Aburi Girls.
It was all at Aburi Girls. And I remember that first night, 25th September. Because of bullying, they had a strategy where all the new girls were put in one house.
Okay.
It was made up of 12 dorms. We were grouped in average of 10 girls. And your supervisor was a Form 5 girl who was maybe 5 years older than you are. So maybe a 15 or a 16-year-old was your dorm monitress, we used to call them. So we used to call it Mexico, Irene Anderson House now at the time. And I was in dorm 8. And all I remember from that time to this day, anytime I hear crickets chirping, owls hooting, those sounds at night of animals or insects, I remember that first night in Aburi, because I had never heard it before. Sounds.
You lived in an industrial area. Yes.
I hear horns, I see smoke, I music, that kind of thing. So anytime I hear those sounds, it takes me right back. And I remember, our beds were laid. You enter, you are introduced to your dorm monitress. You put your box in a box room, your trunk. You just take a few things, you pack into a locker, and then you sit there. I was so wide out, I could hear other girls crying, because why are we here?
Well, yeah.
What did we do?
We were just having our lives.
Being sent to, but for me, it was an adventure. Yes, this is something. It was like you had a home in behind a forest, behind. Mexico was like trees. That's why the sounds you could hear them at night. And I was like, okay, let's see what this will be. And throughout that time, from Form 1, it was something else. We went through stages where I remember me and my mate from my parents, Gloria Jekum. A senior just sees you. What's your name? My maiden name is Donko. So I say, my name is Theresa Donko. Where are you from? I'm from Tema. You don't even get to say the Tema parent. Tema girl. Hey, must say, kneel down, raise your hand, go and fetch water. And this was constant bullying, just because you are from Tema.
From Tema.
And you asked the question about what sort of behavior. I'm quite. You said, what did I want to do? If I had my own way, I'd probably end up being in music or. Probably end up in Hollywood.
You could sing then?
Not necessarily, but I
fancied that.
Yes, there's a deep interest and all that. So I had a little wild side. Of course, you don't take that wild side at home. As long as I'm posting the grades, So they said, Tema, bad girl. And then we had our Nino's nights and entertainment. We told you these Tema girls, they can dance, they can sing, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And for me, Aburi Girls, apart from the academic, the life on campus, because we did not have water, we had these expeditions. We had to go out.
Go fetch your own water.
Go fetch water, not just for yourself, for your seniors. And we had barrels arranged at the forecourt. When you just enter Aburi Girls, we had the forecourt, just arranged barrels with your name and padlocks. And we had girls who were smart about it. They just lift the barrel and pour the water. So you think you have enough water to last, you have to go.
No water.
And the names of the places we went to fetch water is what always kills me. We had places like Jamaica, Beirut,
I think 2 days ago a caller mentioned Jamaica in Aburi. I doubt it. But, now that you're confirming,
it's in the valley.
Oh.
So imagine we leave, Aburi Girls campus. We walk in groups. You are supervised.
You supervise, okay.
You go down the valley, and in Kokwasi, it was actually a natural stream, and the color of the water was yellow. I remember yellowish.
Wow.
So it was at that time that I experienced putting chlorine in water so that you can sanitize it.
Wow.
We didn't drink it though, just enough for you to.
And you guys were not science students?
Not even yet. No, we were already performing science experiments because of that. Kokwasi, and by the time you go down the valley,
yes.
I remember one experience because I don't really soften up at situations, but cases where I do, I remember. So we went down the valley, fetched the water, came up, and I think it was a herd of sheep. They just met us, and everything on my head, the contents of the bucket.
You had to
I
go
just
back
sat down, crying, and everybody, the girls were so good, fetched
bits of
their water from their pails into mind. The lesson in that journey, it made us resilient. And you look at our batch of, Aburi girls students, we are so resilient because it's like nothing faces us. We just go for it and do what we have to do because we had to fetch water, we had to take care of seniors, and also introduce structure. I was already coming from a home that it was already, structured, very disciplined. And, my dad is Presbyterian, so I'm not surprised we went to a Presbyterian school. So you wake up at a certain time, you lay your bed, you take your bath, your studies, and we were not allowed to speak vernacular on campus.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, so every girls, in fact, your name was written, and Friday assembly, and when we met, we knew that, look, names were going to be, and the girls who wrote their names were always the girls that came from abroad that could not speak the
They'd easily detect it when you're speaking
even
vernacular.
Grew up here that could not, so they would write their names. And there were 2 girls in our group who, by the time our late headmistress, Mrs. Sansotu, stood there, they just stand up because they know their names on it. Another person who I admired was Eredu.
Okay.
She was our house mistress, so she took care of the traditional houses. That's Edinburgh, Barrador, Kilsyth, Aberdeen, and then Iron Anderson. Typical, what do you call it? Ekriapem.
Okay.
What's the thing? So she just put the fear of God in her. But
in you.
I found her so animated because she's very, petite.
She's fun size.
She's still there, fun. And then we used to love her, but she just instilled a lot of discipline in us. Gave us structure. So those format, and I'm not even in Form 3 yet. This is Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. So by Form 3, so what, I'm going to 13 years? That's when you choose your electives, as they call them down. So we had the science, the arts, the home and economics, and then we were chosen for science. And
so then they choose you based on your performance.
Yes, I think it was based on performance in certain subjects. I've forgotten what it was. Yes. So we were chosen for science, and then we had tutors. And the beauty about it, most of these tutors were with us on campus.
Okay.
So they were like our mothers, our fathers. Some of them were not that. We had these teaching assistants, so they were like
the ones that would come from St. Louis once a while.
Yes.
Somewhere in green.
They wore white, they wore white and blue, very nice, pretty ladies. We used to like them because they taught us things, how to put on makeup and all that. Yes. So it was a really interesting journey through Aburi. In fact, that sisterhood that we formed, we keep it till now. Especially for my year group. Every girl's 94, 96. Yeah.
And when you became a senior, what type of senior were you? Knowing all the things you had gone through, were you different from the seniors you met?
By the time we got, things changed. By the time, because for us, when we were in Form 2 going on to Form 3, then the first batch of SSS joined us.
Yes.
And some of them were even older than we were. So we were that group. I would say we were not your typical bullies. For me especially, it was just studying. You needed to just study.
You were a science student.
Yes, it was. But science students, we also had fun because we had most of the excursions out of the school. Went to I remember our biology teacher at the time took us all the way to Cape Coast. Even though I'm from there, I don't remember the last time. But to go on a journey with your friends, it was quite fun. We went, you showed us things on the shore, things we had learnt in class and all that. So I did physics, chemistry, biology. Okay. Some of my mates did the maths option,
maths.
And physics was just too difficult.
Physics is the reason why I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
Yes.
But here it is, Mr. Donko, my father, sat me down and just taught me the first principle about physics.
What was it?
I just got it just like that, and people didn't understand. How come you understand it? It's just the way they were taught. Okay. He told me those, I think missionaries taught them at the time, and he remembers his first calculus class where it was an Indian missionary. He just came down, wrote something on the board, and somebody raised their hands and said, "Sir, what's that long S on the board?"
Yeah.
That.
The one with the baby at the top.
Yeah, and they just understood the way things were. So he broke it down. This is it. What law are you? Is it Darwin's law? Which law are you learning? This is what it means. Basic principle. he understood the true essence of basic. I always tell him that he should lecture in his book, because he can really explain things for you to get.
I think when we are met with the very practical definition of things, it makes the understanding better, and then it sticks with you. Will actually stay with you forever. Unlike the ones, some will just come and read the notes to you and expect you to understand as they read, but some would also interpret it, actually paint pictures with it, so it stays with you forever. We just have a few people like that.
Exactly. So that helped a lot. Biology was quite easy for me, and chemistry didn't give me problems until I went to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to read pharmacy, because pharmacy is chemistry and organic chemistry at that. So but I sailed through that. So those were the 7 years. I've just brushed through that.
All that.
Every year in Aburi Girls was an adventure. It was a journey. And when you have gone to school and come back, it was saddled with classes. You needed to make sure you were still up there. But then in all that, throughout that school grooming at home in Aburi Girls, I remember I started going to the Community 1 market in my second year, because my mother said, this is a list, go and buy what we want to use to cook. I said, go. I had been going with her, but when I came back from boarding school, I think the second form 2, she said, go by yourself. And she always used to take helps who were younger than I was. So at any point in time, I was the older one. So that help was not really there to do things for you.
It's just basically there to assist you.
Not even I was
just
doing,
be there.
So a lot of responsibility was, put my way. And I think I started nurturing my ability to multitask from that time. Yes, and it really helped. You don't think about these things, but when you look
subconsciously,
back,
you pick
parents always want the good for you, but at the time we rebel, we resist, we don't want to, but you were building your character by doing these things as you went along. So.
And then you moved away from Tema once again, all the way to Kumasi.
Yes.
What informed your decision to go to KNUS? Was it because of the science and technology?
Well, I think, thinking about this now, because my dad was an alumni, he wanted me to go there.
You just had to go because daddy was from there?
Not necessarily. Remember, I wanted to read medicine. Of course, at the time, people measured the school of medicine in Legon was relatively solid then. So that was what I went in for. But just before, I had actually gone to Kumasi first to write the exam to enter medical school. It came back okay. But just as I was about to go, my dad sat me down and said, do you really want to do this doctor thing?
Really? At this point?
At this point. And I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted. Oh, well, look at the number of years. Then you have to, knowing you would want to specialize. Have you thought about pharmacy? You're going to basically make the same impact, shorter. Yeah. Once he said shorter number of years,
you're like, okay,
I was sold. I was sold.
So you had to step in and then switch?
Yes, so I switched.
Okay.
And then I found out 3 or 4 of my Aburi Girls were also reading fast.
Like,
oh,
God did it.
Yes, so it was quite fun. And I don't regret that decision at all. I don't, because switching to pharmacy was everything. It's a very difficult course. Very difficult.
Now that you've mentioned, help some of us understand. Is it that you have to know every medicine? Do you have to learn every disease? Or some of the things are on the go? There are things you need to find out on the go.
No, it's the training.
Okay.
And for us, the training in pharmacy in KNUST, we were trained, right down to the way you presented yourself, the way, it wasn't just the technicality. And to answer your question, medicines are grouped in categories based on what they do. So we are talking about, you mentioned anti-infectives in your introduction. Antibiotics comes under that, antifungals, and they all belong to a certain group. There's a trick into learning which
we'll learn later. Or they have to pay and go to KNUST
exactly,
and learn.
There's a trick. So sometimes you even see a new drug just by the way, so we always ask, what is the active ingredient? And by the time you know what the active ingredient is, you can categorize which group it belongs to, and then you know what it does. Yes. So, but it's a very intense course.
And you must be trained to understand.
You must be. I remember our first year we entered the class. We were just about 100 in our group. We entered the class. One of the lecturers came. He said, "By the end of this semester, half of you will go home." And I
think that's a thing that's done in every class.
And
my economics class, it did seem to us as well.
This particular lecturer, if my mates are listening, he was our organic chemistry.
Okay.
I think he just found delight in tormenting us. And you guys, I'm going to change. As if when he changes the structure, it will confuse us or something a lot. But for me, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not about to go home. I have to study, and that was the first time for me. I was going to go into a co-ed environment where I'm going to be with boys, because I've been in a girls' school for 7 years. Even though I was in an all, a female hall, Africa hall, but you sat in the class with boys. I don't want to be distracted, and I have to remember, for me at home, studies first.
Yes.
Post the grades, you can chill later. So that it was, but it was another exposure, because for me in tech, another journey also began, because it wasn't all about studying. You also had to grow up.
Okay.
So I always say I passed through tech, but tech also passed through me.
That's a nice one.
And thankfully, I went through KNUST without dropping or trailing any course. How I did that,
only God.
Only God, because right, at the beginning, early on in my life on KNUST campus, I chanced upon theater or drama.
Oh.
And this was in the the Methodist and the Presbyterian group, students group. They had a drama wing. It's called Vessels at the time. And the amount of time I spent going for rehearsals, at a point they even made me the director, writing scripts, directing.
And this was you, a pharmaceutical student who's supposed to be focusing on all the books.
I'm telling you, that's so
was your dad aware?
Never.
He wasn't, okay.
As long as I was, it was after.
Okay.
It was after tech though that I started helping the young or the youth at church in drama.
Okay.
Before he told me, do you know I used to do this when I was in tech? I'm like, okay.
Wow, I also did it.
But because he saw, because I had to tell him, I'm going to church, but what are you going to do? I said, I'm teaching drama now. I said, you're teaching drama? He even came to see one of my productions at church. I'm like, okay, if I knew my dad did this,
you would have boldly told him.
Not even boldly, probably taken it more World Cup than I did. But of course, it was a balancing act. I had to balance that with my studies, and yes, how I went through tech without dropping a point, only God.
Kumasi around that time, I'm sure, still had the Kiravis and the rest. Were you doing the...
Oh, yes.
Okay. I like that.
Yes.
So what was the strategy then? I think Kumasi, we say strategy. Was it Kiravi first? Your friend Clavis. And there was one around Amakum.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. There was one around Amakum. I've forgotten the name. Yes.
I'm sure somebody will
yes.
say it.
If you're listening and you also grew up in Kumasi, there was a nightclub around the stadium area, around where Love FM was. If you can help us with the name, we'll be very glad. We need it to continue. But then tell us about your party days there as well.
Yeah. So I said that was the time we were introduced co-ed. So you have let's party. But for us in pharmacy school, it wasn't just the lectures. Yeah. We had the labs. So I remember one time we went out to one of these places, and at the time, nightlife wasn't like here or now. You can just order an Uber or pick up a Yango. No taxi at all was in sight, and we had to walk from, what's the name of that roundabout that goes? It also went to. It used to go to the K-Poly.
Is it Amekum roundabout?
Is it
Asafo?
Asafo. It's Asafo roundabout.
Yes.
Rev.
Yes.
I walked from Asafo roundabout to Tech Campus.
Oh how?
You say oh how, and we didn't even feel it. We were a group, and that morning we had microbiology lab.
Hey, this is so from Asafo roundabout. You'd have to walk to the Asafo itself uphill.
Yes.
Then to Amakum roundabout, which wasn't a roundabout, it was just a junction, by the way. It was just a junction. Then you'd walk to Ofori Chrome.
Yeah.
and then to Anoga
that
Junction.
was like a kilometer journey on any day.
That's a lot of kilometers, by the way.
And look,
you didn't even feel it.
You are young, you're fearless, you didn't feel it, and we had micro B in the morning, and it was an exam.
Wow. But I'm sure you guys had learned already.
Yes.
I mean, you did.
Yeah. So for me, even now, I always tell my team, work hard, I play harder.
Party after.
Yeah.
Now, one thing has come up. Shouts going out to Exhibit the Barber. One of my listeners, Ofuri, is at Adento. Ofuri wants to find out the difference between, that's just to veer off a bit, a licensed chemical seller and a pharmacist. Is there a difference?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Licensed medical seller, in fact, they are called over-the-counter medicine sellers now, OTMCs, yes. A licensed medical seller could or could not be somebody from the health. It could be, anybody.
So I can.
It could, but you are allowed to sell only over-the-counter medications, but not prescription.
Okay.
So, you can sell, what do you call it? I'm trying not to use the science names. You can sell blood tonics. Painkillers.
Once there's a name.
No, over the counter. These are not prescription medications. Prescription only medications. And Pharmacy Council is the agency that regulates licensed chemicals and then pharmacy. A pharmacy should be operated by a licensed pharmacist. Like myself.
Like yourself.
Yes. So a pharmacist, you are allowed to, actually give that service. Prescription only medicines, over-the-counter medicines, medical devices, counseling. It's more comprehensive. But unfortunately, over time, especially when you go to areas where, you can drive for many miles, you just see one licensed chemical, and unfortunately, they start giving out things.
Yes, I'm a bit confused now. Now that you've mentioned, defined the different rules, because I think it's conflicted. A lot of people who are supposed to be licensed chemical sellers are selling. Now that you've mentioned, my mind is just drawn to a lot of. And
just recently, the Pharmacy Council, together with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, they actually put a ban. It's been on for a while. They are not even issuing licenses for over-the-counter or licensed chemical sellers now. It's just because you go through a robust process to even open a pharmacy, which is regulated just to make sure you are, giving out drugs of a certain kind, not expired, drugs that have been registered with the Ghana FDA. It's very, very regulated.
Yes, it's robust.
And for us, or in Ghana as the public, it's protecting us, because would you want to be buying medicines that are not kept at a certain condition for an ailment? So we make sure that let's just try and wash out or flush out all the bad ones now. So for them now, they are also regulated. They are given certificates that they have to display, that Pharmacy Council says it's okay it's for me to do this, because even the type of room that they use for the shops, they give certain dimensions that they have to keep these medicines.
Nice. So, good to know. Guys, keep your messages coming in, 0202222073. We're still here with Maame Ekua Galley, my guest for this morning. The conversation is getting super interesting. We've not even gone through half of what we're supposed to do this morning, but I love the stories already. I'm enjoying it. But a big thank you to MTN Ghana, our proud sponsor. I mentioned happy birthday. Sorry, I mentioned that it's everyone's birthday earlier. I'm sure you're wondering who specifically celebrating his or her birthday. Well, it is you. And it's you because MTN is saying you are a special person. If today happens to be your special day, if today's your birthday, trust me, you deserve great birthday gifts all on us, okay? Now, on your birthday, that is, if yours is not today or it's today, you get up to 3 hours of free talk time and 25 free text messages to call and text your favorite, people, your friends, your family on MTN. Now, that's not all. You also stand a chance of getting a birthday cake delivered to you wherever you are. Of course, e-vouchers to grab your own birthday gifts at some of your favorite joints and shops as well as supermarkets. So you know where all the birthday fun day, if it's your birthday, join the biggest, family in Ghana and let us chill on your special day. Kind courtesy MTN. Please note that terms and conditions do apply. Now, life is not certain, okay? But planning towards life's uncertainties is certain. Emergencies and retirement from active service is sure to come, but your preparedness will determine your attitude to it. Now, with Carl Assets Advantage and Benefit Unit Trust, you get the chance to put money any way you do it away towards life's unplanned emergencies such as temporary loss of jobs, family emergencies, or even towards your retirement, okay? Enjoy a safe investment designed to preserve the value of your investments against inflation, liquidity risk, and more in the medium to long term at Carl Asset Management. For more information, please call or get in touch with us via 0574 769 205 0574 769 204 or 0501 678 606. You can also visit carlassetmanagement.net or send us a message on our Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. The handle is Carl Assets MGT. Okay, Carl Asset Management, wealth creation made super easy. Maame Ekua, back to the story. So you studied, you did your pharmacy, you obviously passed as well. Where did the actual work begin for you? Also, while you were in school, did you do any internships?
Yeah.
How important do you think internships are? I think 2-3 questions in one.
Yes. Yeah, and these are very important questions, Rev. So throughout tech, I remember my first year vacation, my parents said, you need to go do some internship. At the time, our family doctor was Dr. Fifi Ellis at the Trust Hospital in Osu. So my first, encounter of the work environment was in the pharmacy department at Trust Hospital, the one in Osu now. And at the time, I remember the other time when I came and I had an interview with the lady who does it in the evening with
Akosua Hansen.
Akosua Hansen, yes. Her mom was one of my first bosses at Trust Hospital. Yeah, she's a senior pharmacist. Yeah. So and that part of my journey was being introduced to work environment. And I always tell the young ladies I mentor, working is not just doing the technical things that this is what I'm supposed to do, but it's how you interact with people.
Yeah.
You see, so your ability to interact with people at different levels defines who you are at the workplace, So here I was, very young student, just done a semester or two at KNUST for pharmacy, and I was put into
in the field already.
And that with internships, I call them internships, apprenticeships, serving, whatever you decide to call it. It's really important because unfortunately, this generation of young adults want to just go in head first. You need to learn. You need to serve at the feet of a master at the craft. That is what defines those who are good at what they do. At the time, my responsibility was very simple. Trust used to sort of dispense and come up with their own solutions. You are just to pack them or pack the pills. I think it was the multivice, the simple ones. But I was diligent at it. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. But of course, in doing that, you also got exposed to the different scenarios. So in a typical hospital pharmacy, we've got the director of pharmacy, we've got the chief pharmacist, they're different, but then they are also not working in a bubble. They work, amongst the whole hospital, management. So they go for meetings. One time, Mrs. Hanson would say, hey, let's go, all interns included, let's go, and go to the hospital meeting, and we didn't even understand what was going on. But as you matured, it's okay. So that was all. They went for mortality meetings just to talk about how many deaths had happened and all that, So it exposed you. But for me, most importantly, the lesson there was your ability to navigate your relations with those above and those below you. Even if you were an intern, because there was that man or the lady who swept the pharmacy. There was that young man we sent to buy the wache. There were your peers. There were those
your superiors.
There were the technicians who were not pharmacists. There were pharmacists. You see, so your ability to be able to
do a 360 interaction with all these people also. It
was really introduced to me, and so internships any day 100%.
And I'm sure after you come back to school, you understand things better than some of your mates,
Yes.
because you have had on the field experience.
Right.
So certain things you understand.
Right.
Certain medications will be mentioned in your class, and
I know
this is
exactly
how
what
it looks.
it looks at, the color, whether it's a capsule, whether it's a tablet, whether it's chewable, whether it's effervescent. You knew exactly what it was. And for us, it was actually encouraged
Okay.
that you need. And now I see, during vacation, you get letters from Legon. All the pharmacy schools are in. It's now official.
Yeah.
Go out there and do something, because for them, they are reading the PharmD
Yes.
now. So it's a longer, course. So it was very good for me to do. So I did that, I think, 1 or 2 vacations. And then the whole concept of traveling, students traveling came across. So my first
long vac.
long vac,
If
it
you
was
don't go, if you don't go some, day inside. I remember.
yeah, so my first visit out of the country was in the UK.
Nice.
My uncle invited me, and he was in Kent at the time. So a pharmacy student, and at the time it was just for the little pounds you get to buy clothing, and
to come and represent on
come and
campus.
represent that you've also gone. But for me, there was another working experience, because my uncle at the time had a colleague who knew somebody who had a apple factory. They packed apples for Sainsbury's and all these
Waitrose, all of them.
So myself and my friend at the time, so my uncle said, okay, you're going to go help. I'm like, okay, we came on vacation. Yeah, but you're not going to just sleep. He's got the same trace as my dad, so you're not just going to. So early in the morning, around 4 or 5, the bus, the company bus
And
came.
you dare not miss that.
You dare not miss it. And we were given these horrific overalls in green but that was a certain level of discipline.
And
as
this was
well.
a different field.
And this was a different culture. This was Kent, in the UK. So we stand in line. You're supposed to pack and weigh, and then you wrap it, and that was the job. But you need to arrive at a certain
different
time.
structure there.
And that was my first experience of a bad boss, Mark. I'll never forget his name, because I used to wear these tiny earrings that were cross-shaped. I don't know whether he was antichrist.
I think Mark was an atheist.
So he shouts right across the factory floor, "You take them crosses off," and he's so red.
Oh my days.
And I'm like, okay, what did I do? And like, no, because it wasn't like you're not allowed to even wear earrings, but you're supposed to cover your hair and then wear protect. It was like the PPE at the time to wear and pack, so that they are hygiene for the supermarket. So that also I learned that, look, you could work. It's not everybody that will be nice to you when you're, and this was a different culture. I didn't even grasp the concept of racism at the time, whether it was subtle racism. I experienced that later, but at that time, no. And then one of my visits, the job was, the British like their tea. So it was an office building at the time, and at that time it was my boyfriend and now my husband's friend who introduced us. We go when they are done with work in the evening, so around 6-7ish, till when we wash all the teacups. I mean, you can enter an office that is barely, bigger. But the number, I'm like, how many people? It's just one, but they just use the teacups and they just put it in and they drink coffee. So you have to wash it tidy. And then so the women were doing the washing, and the guys were doing the, carpets, cleaning of the carpets, getting and all that. Yes. So that was another job that I did. Another one that I did was in Canary Wharf. It's like a commercial area. We were security.
You've done all that?
Oh, yes, I've done security. I love the security because we had dope uniforms to wear.
And you had tasers and all that?
Oh, yes, we were fully, and we stood at the... But it was the ride, because at the time I was living with my friend and her sister, and it was just close to Wembley. Wembley Stadium was being built at the time. So we just take the train to Canary Wharf, and it was so... You saw the sort of business-like people, and I really observe people a lot, and you can tell, okay, this is a serious person, this is a boss madam, this is the way they dress, and you sort of want to be like them. You are still in university, you're reading pharmacy, but you're sort of building certain things as you go along. So it's a different culture, different weather, everything, but it gave you some level of independence.
Yeah.
We were very independent because, look, we entered secondary school at 10 years, 11 years old. So very independent at the time. And I worked at KFC too.
Oh, is it? You've done it all.
KFC, I was living with my aunt in Stockwell, South London. One of the visits as well. And she said, "Oh, Mami, okay." So this Indian man took us on. And one of the days I was going through one of my old suitcases, I saw the pictures.
You saw the pictures,
I used to
right?
work with Pakistanis and Indians, and then my boss was a Jamaican at the time. And I was very, it was just diligence. You're supposed to pack this number of chicken in a bowl at the time.
Yeah.
The menu hasn't changed.
Yeah. Streetwise and the rest.
No, the Streetwise wasn't even. It was only... The chicken at the time was all the original.
Okay, the original.
They didn't have the spicy one at the time. So, and my cousins, that's my auntie's kids, were always glad. I used to close at 11 p.m. They would wait because
they're getting chicken.
Yes, because of inspection, we are required to throw the chicken away. So I'm like, okay, boss, instead of throwing all away from where I come from, just give me some. It's not spoiled chicken. Yeah. It's just that if you didn't sell all the chicken for the day, you had to throw it away. Yeah. Inspectors come see that so that it doesn't look like
you carried it on to the next
day. And then I used to take buckets of KFC home and they will wait. And then I took them home and they were, and that was also because for me, I worked with mostly immigrants at the time, Pakistanis, Indians, I didn't have any Caucasian in KFC at the time. And KFC, I think it was it third year? I've forgotten what year it was. I was about finishing my course but you did it because, look, it gave you exposure and again the way you interact and your ability to work across boundaries. So that was the lesson in that journey.
Mami, so these days you drive through KFC and you get flashbacks?
When KFC came to Ghana, I was like, finally.
They are coming here.
Yeah, you drive through and so I'm always, until you have gone through something, you don't really appreciate. Whenever people honk or are rude to the guys behind the counter,
you don't know what's
that
going
used
on
to be me. 20-something years or more ago. So I said, I'm always very pleasant. You take your time. I always check my chicken because sometimes if you are, I remember when they introduced this, was it the spicy wings? One time, was it the Sakumano branch? I counted. I went back. I said, it's supposed to be small.
And they're wondering what's going on.
What's going on? They said, I used to work. They were looking at me strange. This woman I'm like, no, it's not because it's just
due diligence.
You're supposed to put 12 pieces in there. Just put that 12
Don't make 11. Don't give me 10. Give me what I need. Wow. Beautiful.
So I've done it all.
And after all these years, school was done finally, and then you had a job here in Ghana, or you...
Yes. So by the time we finished tech, for us, it's very straightforward in pharmacy. Once you're done, you have to write the professional licensing exam. But before you do that, you have a year to do proper recognized internship. So you do a 6 months of hospital internship and then a 3 months of community pharmacy internship. So that is where I ended up in 37. And at the time is the what do you call it? Pharmacy council that will post you. So you either go to 37 Kolebu, and mind you, I'm still living. I've always lived in Tema.
I know.
You can take the girl out of Tema.
But you can't take the Tema out of the girl.
Yeah. So, and I'm not driving nothing. So you need to make sure you're up. The motorway wasn't that bad at the time. You wake up. And then you still shop. Right from that internship at Trust Hospital, my dad said, all I'm going to give you is transport money. Find your way, go to Come1, pick a car and go. So I sort of had that already. But after school, that internship was also another, phase, another journey. You enter a quasi-government institution at 37 Military Hospital because you have the military, and then you have the civilian employees. And then I saw the military and I'm like, okay, I think there's something I can do. I was entertaining joining the military, and when I told my parents, they didn't blink.
Wow.
Yeah, they didn't blink. They're like,
if you want to do it, I mean.
You can, and something I always heard when I was growing up. And that's why what we also say around our kids. All I could hear, Maame Ekua zinenyo ezen. Maame Ekua zonsohwe. Maame Ekua zotumi bibia. Maame Ekua. That's all you know, you hear your parents talking to their friends. You hear, oh, Maame Ekua, obetumaye. You know, every time you heard that. So even in cases where you were faced with a challenge, even my parents know I can do this. Yeah. So why should I doubt myself? So we should also be very intentional what we say around the people we mentor, those with. You need to, you know, bring them up. So when we went to 37, you know, we are introduced. 37 was huge, made up of different departments. We had pharmacists who were soldiers,
nurses, all of them. Yeah.
Everybody, we were introduced. We went for ward rounds. We went for, you know, presentation, and that was the first time I saw somebody come. We used to do it in the mess to do a presentation on a product.
Okay.
And I found it very intriguing. However, the guy was late. The guy is even late now, bless his soul. He was late. And this is a whole group of military men, you know, very disciplined with time.
They were waiting. Time.
They've given you a time to show up and do your presentation. He was late. Look, he was visibly sweating under his shirts. They were, you know, soaked with sweat. He was sweating. I think he was trying to connect the laptop to the projector. It wasn't
working.
I was like, no. If I have to do this, never will I put myself in that situation. So fast forward, when I became a medical rep, if I have to do a presentation, let's say here at the mall, during the week I will come. I will look at the venue.
Do a recce, right?
I'll recce. I learned the word from the village. I will recce. Where is the power source? Is my laptop power cord going to be long enough? Do I need an extension cord? You know, and these were things that you pick up without even realizing. Because of that thing I saw, I said, I will never put myself in that situation. So at the time when we finished, the options were you do your hospital pharmacy internship, you do your community, and then you either become a hospital pharmacist, a community pharmacist, maybe industry pharmacist, the Phytorika, very active manufacturing. NS Chemist hadn't started manufacturing at the time, but they were local manufacturers and all that. Or you go into regulatory, either the FDA, the Pharmacy Council. And I'm listing all these and I'm like, I don't think, because I know myself. I'm not sitting behind the desk.
You need something challenging, right?
I always want to move. I can't do that. So it was at 37 when we were about finishing the hospital. In fact, for me, I didn't wait to finish the hospital before I started the pharmacy, because at the time my dad always used to purchase the drugs for the family at a pharmacy in Tema called Chaska. So Mrs. Francisca Sophie, she's, you know, one of my first bosses. She was also, you know, so my dad just mentioned that, okay, she's just that they said they should find a community pharmacy to come in and do internship. Will you take her? She said, oh, you are one of my key customers. Let her come. And the rest is I. So at the time, I closed from 37, go to the station, pick up a tractor, the hiring cars,
all the way
to Chaska. So I closed from 37 at 2 o'clock, and then I move and then start at Chaska at 3. So I had a 1 hour window, and this was keeping to time. When I came in today, one of your producers said, you showed up. Yeah, because he texted me and he said, Ma'am, if you can get here, the interview is at 10. If you can get here at 9:50, it will. And I was here at 9:50. Yes, so he comes and he said, oh, you're good with time. I said, time is my middle name. Because my first promotion, major promotion in my career, it was because I was punctual. My boss said, you live in Tema. We have an office in Osu. But you come to work every day before those who even live in Accra, before 8 o'clock. If you are diligent with time, you can be diligent with other things. And I was promoted.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm loving the story already. Wow. And so you did this for how long?
So this was almost, excuse me, close to a year.
Okay.
Close to a year where, you know, you did your internship at the hospital and then Chaska. Mrs. Esifi was very good you know, because obviously he knew my parents. And then she took you all through all the aspects, dispensing, managing a pharmacy, you know, procurement, everything. And I took it
and
like...
you had seen the experience before.
Sorry,
when
yeah.
you did your internship at Trust.
Yes. At Trust was more of hospital inclined.
Yes, but
this was community. And her pharmacy was close to the Tema General Hospital, which is the major general hospital in Tema. So you had all sorts of cases, all sorts of prescriptions. It was quite an exposure. So I said, no, this is good. I was almost considering, but I'm like,
Still.
So it was one of the times at 37, almost in completion of my hospital pharmacy internship. And then a recruiter, he was a senior pharmacist, still is at the time, Mr. Noah Kulache. He just goes to my boss and says, I need 2 pharmacy interns to come and help me as reps. So I think that my boss at the time just chose 2 guys. Said, no, I want 2 women. And my boss said, 2 women as medical reps. And Mr. Kolache said, yes.
Is it because there were no many ladies in the field?
I think I've asked him once. I don't remember. I've always wanted to find out why he wanted women. So we were, and mind you, we were what, 10, 15 pharmacy interns, and about 10 of us were women. We were more than the men in 37. And he chose myself and another colleague of mine, Ansa. She's in Switzerland now, doing wonders with JSK. Yeah. So that's
wow.
These were the 2 women he chose and said, okay, I think these 2 will do. I don't know what he saw. So we finished at 7, almost done with Chaska, and that was my introduction to medical representation with MEFA. It was MEFA at the time. It's now Asino. They are the producers of the Kathleen lozenges. At the time, they were introducing an anti-malarial for children. Very good at the time. So gave me basic training, how to engage. But of course, I always tell reps, you are a good rep if you know your product. You should be the master of your product. Everything about your product, the disease surrounding the product, everything. So he gave us the basic rudiments of what a rep is, your conduct, everything. But the real party started when Pfizer came calling.
Nice.
Yes. So that was the introduction of my medical rep. And I met 2 senior colleagues there. Henry Bruce, I still call him my boss, and then Fred, yes, I forgot what his last name was. They took us, you know, initially they were not too patient. These ladies are just going to waste our time.
They're going to drag us
I'm
back.
sick and my head and my tummy. But no, you know, remember I'm coming from a place where I wasn't socialized to think because I'm a woman I can do or I cannot.
You performed equally like everyone.
Yeah, mentally, and for me it was an adventure. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. I don't want to sit.
And I'm sure throughout your work, the experience at 37 you had with the rep coming in and delaying and going through hell kept ringing in your head. So you always try to be on your toes to ensure that you did
that
the best
image has today I use it when I'm training reps. Yes, I said.
So what set of new challenges did this position pose for you after you got in? I mean, remember, it's a new field for you. You remember any fun moments, any bad moments, if there were any?
Oh yes, I will say them all. So MEFA now Asino, the stint there wasn't quite long. I think it was about a year and a half. But during that, and then it ended because I think at the time the partners of Mr. Kulache at the time, they withdrew from the country or something along those lines. And then Mrs. Esando, she was the CEO of Jinlet Pharmacies, if you remember Jinlet Pharmacies. I heard she was looking for somebody to man her Osu branch. Remember, I'm still living in Tema. And the local pharmacy slot available was 4 p.m. to 11 p.m.
That would mess with your plans.
No.
The time and
adventure. It's adventure for me.
Wow.
So I used to leave Tema, get to Jinlet Pharmacy in Osu at 4 p.m., do my work, and I took it as my own. She because she wasn't a pharmacist. She was a businesswoman. She was a former SIC, one of the big wigs. She wasn't retired, not necessarily, but she wanted, it was a business venture she had invested in. She said, run the pharmacy. So, okay, what do
now
I do?
you have to be in charge.
In charge. I took it, and I'm in my early 20s. I hadn't gotten anywhere. Just finished school, finished my internship, waiting to write my exam. And, that journey also exposed me to community pharmacy. So I did community pharmacy. It's just that I wanted more.
Yeah.
So when I was in Gillette Pharmacy as the locum pharmacist there was when Pfizer came recruiting, and they recruited through the agency that made that came for us in 37. Yeah. So I said, oh no, these two, let them come. We went for
a no-brainer.
Yeah, we went for but we had to go through it all, the interview, the interview, everything, and then we got selected.
And I mean, that must have been good news. I'm just here smiling.
This one was the big deal because Pfizer, we all know, multinational, big pharmaceutical giant. They used to call me Snow White in this because I was the only woman in 7 men who were reps. Oh no, and I made my presence felt. And at the time, as a rep, because it was a multinational, they are equipped with all the funds. I remember my boss, and I'll always mention his name, Mr. Divine Akaba. He said, okay, let's go to the showroom for your cars. I said, okay.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir, what did you say? Let's go to the showroom for our cars?
What type of cars do you want to drive? The guys were like that. And I've always had affinity for German engines. So
okay.
At the time, it was the VW Bora.
Okay.
It was a champagne-colored one.
Okay.
That was my first car. So we went in and said, okay, let the lady choose first. And I knew exactly what the color I chose.
This was new to you.
And all this mine. So I take it home, and my parents, okay, you said you were going for an interview. You went for a few trainings. Whose car is it? Yeah. Look, my dad made me show him the papers. I had shown him my appointment letter, even the papers of the car. To date, I think he even called my boss to find out if I got it.
I'm sure.
You see, and the lesson there was, you couldn't show up with an iPhone 14.
Yes. When you don't earn enough to, or you haven't built enough.
Exactly.
Good point.
So he said, this is a brand new car. I said, this is the tool I'm going to use to work. This is my appointment letter. It says I'm due this. This is my salary. Yeah. I'm required to do this. I'm required to do that. And he was like, okay. So he sat me down. And at the time, automatic cars were not. They were more expensive.
Okay.
And my boss was a bit lenient. He said, give the automatic car to the lady. But I could drive the stick. I could drive it, and said, give it to her, and then you give the stick to the guys. So my dad was like, automatic. I remember we sat, the car was parked at home. He was looking at the car. I'm sitting with him. He's watching the car, and then he saw, making me know that I cannot possibly mishandle this work tool. Yeah. It is not mine. It is a work tool. I should take care of it. I should manage it. The maintenance culture. He listed all
everything
that
for you.
At the time, I'm like, this man, I'm just going to cruise. But in hindsight, he's keeping you grounded. That okay, you need to take care of company tools. You need to do this and all that. So
beautiful memories.
Yeah.
I was at some point I was going to ask how much you were receiving then, but I mean all that won't really matter.
Oh, you can. I remember.
The first job you had.
My first, it was. Had we done
the
CD at the
time?
Yes, we had.
Okay.
So it was a little shy of 937 CDs or something.
So like somewhere around 1,000 Ghana cedis.
Yeah, but
now,
that was before taxes.
Okay.
So by the time they take in your income tax, your pay, I think I was
and all that.
Yeah, but. Man,
that was good.
I've been given a car.
You're good.
I'm good.
No more catching buses.
Yes.
From Tema, but had you moved from Tema then?
I have always lived born and bred
in Tema.
Yes,
in Tema forever.
Yeah, so I was still living. Remember, I'm still living with my dad.
Yes.
I'm not married. My dad, you can't move out if you are not.
Until you're married.
Yes. So I was still. So that's how come I took that brand new car home, because that's where I was living.
Yeah.
I took it home, and then and then I remember my mom said, "Okay, so we need to bless it. You use the motorway." Yes, all that.
All
So I
that.
was like, okay, so that this car won't go into any accidents. And
My God.
went through all that. Yes.
It did. Well, so you stayed with Pfizer for how long?
So Pfizer, the stint at Pfizer was just about almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Yes, with
Okay.
Pfizer. And Pfizer, I started as a medical rep.
Okay.
Medical rep, meaning you were responsible for a product portfolio. And lo and behold, Viagra was one of my
Was
products.
one of them.
So imagine a young lady
Yes.
knocking
a
on
young Presbyterian lady with a strict dad.
with a wild side.
Yes. With a wild side and having to, so do you remember your first outreach for Viagra?
Oh, I'm coming to
Okay.
that. Before Viagra, so my boss at the time, Mr. Divine Cover, decided Accra was too hot. Kolibu was like, if you are good at repping at Kolibu, you're a good rep.
Okay.
Let's test the waters with Komfo Anochi. So we went to
Kath.
Kumasi, Kath. And at the time, your tool as a rep was this big black bag that doctors and the pilots, now they
Yes,
can
yes,
feel it.
yes.
Ours didn't have the wheels at the time.
What to carry?
So you carry with the big logo Pfizer written on it. So you carry it, and once you are going through, and especially if I had to go to the maternity or the ONG departments, because you're a woman, immediately the other women think, are you a patient? Why do you have to cross and go into the doctor's office? They give you all sorts of advice. But my first encounter, so my boss, he prepped me, so you're going to go to this man, he's a consultant, this is what he does, this is it. I enter, but, I could hardly carry that bag.
yeah.
I carried it, and then I go into the consulting room. Open the. So he thought I was a patient. I said, they give you the prep. Hello, my name is Theresa Donko. I'm a representative for Pfizer. They give you a bifida. And the guy, you can see, he's looking at me. He can see my lips moving. And the first thing he says is, hey, now man also no. And that almost crushed me. So I just shook it up. I said, then I sat down. The guy was so fascinated about a woman rep sitting in front of him. But I was having an insightful conversation. Yes. I was going through the steps of engaging. For him, I think Viagra wasn't applicable to what he was at the time. So it was, I think, one of the antibiotics I just went through with him. So also, when I say, not doctors who always speak to you.
It's a part of us.
Yes, it's like, when I say, wait, you're sure that does it. And also, then he saw a Pfizer. So I went on, my boss was there. How did it go? And you assess yourself. Yes. How did it go? What did you do well? What could you have done better? What were the challenges? How you go? So that type of intense training gave you confidence. The type of training we got in Pfizer. So we had that, and then we had to go to Lagos for like the
grand job.
The grand, training itself, where you meet other reps from other countries and all that, and we had been prepped here. So we have something called role plays. So they sort of give you a scenario. This is Rev Dr. Eskin. He's a gynecologist. He's a head of department. He's been on this panel. He's
for this long.
This and then he doesn't want to prescribe your medication. How would you go about it? So they gave us the art of ice breaking. If you've never met somebody before, and we applied this. I mean, when I sat down today, I wanted to break the ice with you before. It's all part of the training. You break the ice because it puts you at ease. It puts me at ease. That few minutes of interaction, it gives you a good sense of who the person
you're dealing with,
or where they are coming from.
Yes.
So the art of breaking, the ice. You enter somebody's office. You see maybe a Chelsea mug.
You know where to start a conversation.
You know where to start.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to be good at it because sometimes it comes far because it's there, but it's not a good memory for him. So you find ways of doing. I remember one of the doctors I used to visit, he was an avid music listener. In fact, when I enter his office, we talk about music more than we
and
talk
then you
about
just drop the business
the
in
first
a
few
little
minutes
bit.
he goes, you said what? Okay, see the pharmacist. Let's see what you can do.
Wow.
So the challenges were there. Another challenge was, this was a very young girl. I'm married, knocking on doors, marketing pharmaceutical products. What do you think will happen?
I mean, the obvious.
The wolves and the giants will come. So I remember there were few though. So I went to my boss and I said, you know what? It's part of my territory to go, territorial cover to go to that department. I don't want to do it. And I said, and we used to use acronyms that time. So I was TDK, Territor Donko. TDK, why? But you can do it. You can. I said, no, boss, I don't want to. Say, why? What? And then one day I had to tell him. He said, what?
Wow.
You should have told me right from the start. Immediately he made one of my male colleagues cover that territory for me. So all these people sort of gave you a platform. You are having challenges. You need to speak up when you're having challenges on the job. Your boss directly can help you overcome that. Family.
It doesn't make you a bad, employee, by the way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean you are incompetent or, if you're struggling, speak up. There are tools to help you do that. So that is what I did. And immediately he said, you don't have to go to that territory anymore. We'll substitute to do that. And he always used to do this thing that you live in Tema, you are not going to cover. So my territory was Mamprobi, Kolebu.
Far away from Tema.
Danso, far
away. Not sending you home.
Yes, because his thing was, if you get up and put on your work clothes and you drive into town, chances are you work. If you're in Tema, you could be in Bethel. I'm in General Hospital. I'm here, but so he always used to put us opposite where we used to live, and it worked. It really worked, because as a rep, you are not directly supervised, day to day, but you need to inculcate that self-discipline. You go according to your tour plan. This is where I'm supposed to go within this week. Let me do that. These are the people I'm supposed to see. You do that, So that was my journey in Pfizer.
And then at what point did the United States of America come in? Did it come before your next job, or you had the job? And
so it came before my next job. So I moved from Pfizer to the US.
How?
So that was at the time. Always, throughout this journey, something comes up. I think now what has come up is, people migrating to Canada. That's the thing.
That's the thing now.
Everybody. So
there was an announcement yesterday about religious leaders also having the opportunity to move to Canada now, and people were mentioning me on Twitter because my handle is Rev Eskin. I had about 6 mentions, and I think they've tasked a PR team to be reaching out to people with the handles Rev and Pastor. So
very aggressive with the recruiting.
Mention as of the alliances. So that was the thing.
So
then.
At the time, no, it was a thing for. We had something called the Foreign Pharmacy Graduate Examination, and where you could be a foreign pharmacist, meaning you're not a pharmacist in the US.
You're not licensed in the US.
You're not licensed in the US, but they could actually get you to write the examination. You do an internship, you do an examination, and then when you pass the exam, you are given.
So it's pretty much like NCLEX and the rest.
What's NCLEX?
I think it's for the registered nurses.
Yes, so it was FPGEC, NAPLEX at the time for RACs. So for RACs, we did the test of spoken English where you had to get a 50 points. It's like the TOEFL.
Fancy's not a chop last.
No, so it was pretty easy to do that. And then we got there. So it was. I remember our group. We took a picture when we got there and everything, and then we started. So we were posted to different states.
Okay.
So I was in the state of Delaware. But I had family in other states. So I was the only one in Delaware. Delaware I loved because it reminded me of Tema.
Yeah, an industrial,
Not only it's a very small state. Everybody knew, and everything was 15 minutes
away.
We didn't reach, So I loved it. So I started my internship, still I wasn't married at the time, but I was still very serious with my boyfriend. And okay, I've done this internship thing, and I remember when I was going to write the exam, I didn't tell a soul.
Wow.
Because I have been told nobody writes that exam and passes on the first try. I did not tell anybody, even the people I went to, my seniors I had gone to meet, one of my senior colleagues, Dominic. I didn't even tell anybody. I just signed up and then I took the exam. Wow. A few days later, I came. Passed with my registration number.
Wow.
That was one of the highest moments. I said, wow.
It means so what that means is you are going to get the status update. You
everything.
can
so
work.
You are a pharmacist, and it's at the time the company was Eckerd Pharmacy, and they were acquired by Rite Aid, so it became Rite Aid. So I went in as an intern, and my internship, my supervisor or my preceptor was Joe Stratton.
Okay. You're good with names.
Yes, I'm very good with names and figures. So Mr. Joe Stratton, white male, not really gone anywhere from Pennsylvania. And the pharmacy in which I did my internship was on the University of Delaware campus. Okay. So it bordered on Delaware, Pennsylvania, and parts of Maryland, so the tri-state. So you could actually just cross. So we had a lot of people from Pennsylvania, the Amish. I don't know if you know.
I know the Amish,
Very strange, they ride on horses.
Their dresses.
Yes, they used. That was my first time of experiencing them. They came in. So Joe was very good with me, because I really wanted to pick that, because even though I was practicing pharmacy here, and every state is governed differently in the US. That's why even when you are licensed in one state, you cannot be licensed. You have to still take the state exam to be licensed in another. So I was licensed in Delaware. Throughout my internship, he was very good. And then I became the staff pharmacist. And then he decided, no, I want her in this store, because I could have been posted to any of the stores within Delaware. He said, no, I want her to be my partner.
Wow.
And that was huge, because this is my preceptor, meaning we were going to run the shifts. And this was a 12-hour shift within the 7 days. There's nothing like a holiday or a...
Wow.
Yeah, so if he does maybe Monday to Wednesday, I do...
You take over.
And then there's a 1 day off. Yeah, so I was put on the schedule to partner Joe Stratton as the pharmacist at the University of Delaware Rite Aid.
At this point, I'm sure for a young lady who is building her life and career, the returns were good, the prospects were nice.
The returns were good. This was a 6-figure.
Wow. Because
annually.
For people who haven't really been outside, what we know is people
pharmacists
work
are well paid.
Yes, exactly. People work per the
Even as an intern, I was getting 5 figures.
And this is you working a 12-hour shift?
Yeah. And but then you ask yourself why. I'm sure that's what your next question is. Why did I come back? I was not happy, and that was one of the major crossroads in life for me, and that was one major crossroad. Family, everybody did not understand Maame Ekua at the point. What is wrong with you? This is a good opportunity.
Because the family could have visited.
You could my family, even most of my family is out there.
Okay.
Do you get it? So what is it? At the time, so we actually got engaged.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yes, I was going to ask if he's the reason why you decided.
We got engaged. No, we got engaged before I left. He joined me there.
Oh.
But of course he made up his mind. He was going to do a come and go. Still keep his work here. Even at that, but for me, 2 things that drove me back to Ghana. You see, I had the opportunity to work here.
Yeah.
I wasn't earning 6 figures in dollars in Ghana. Nothing. I told you my first, my first, salary. Nothing close to that. And I'm a very social being. There was no social life for me in you work. You don't see, I rented an apartment. You don't see your neighbor.
You don't know your neighbor.
You don't know your neighbor.
In America, it's different.
You're getting all the I was so miserable.
You wake up, you drive to work, you come
drive
back,
to work, it began to show in the way I worked. I began snapping, and these white people, you snap at them, they turn red. I was just becoming irritable, and I said, no.
This is not it.
I just loaded my things into a container and then came to Ghana.
When you were coming, did you have an offer?
Before I was coming, in fact, I was referred to go and see the company psychologist. What can you tell us? Are you going through something? Yeah. You want to return? They even said, Africa. Are you going back to Africa? But you're not even here illegally. Yeah. You're working. You have your license. You have everything.
Why?
Why are you leaving? And I'm talking about it now. It brings so much memories. I had done my internship. I had registered as a pharmacist. Before I left, that was after Pfizer. I was during Pfizer. I got engaged, and then I came back. We had our wedding, and then I went back. And it was one of the journeys when I came back to Ghana. You ask, where is this person? Tema, like I said, everybody know. Oh, they don't live here anymore. Where are they? Oh, they've just finished building their home, so they've moved. Where is this person? Oh, she just opened her pharmacy, or he just opened his pharmacy, so he's gone. Where is this person? Oh, he's working with. So I was like, wait a minute. Am I ready to do this? You can earn all the money, but you see, the system it gives you everything you need to live in America, but you don't own it.
Yeah.
For you to be able to buy
around you,
everything is you've been credited to do that.
You can get anything
you want,
and own nothing.
And I at that time, as if I knew, I don't know whether subconsciously I knew I didn't want to stay, so I never bought a house, and myself and my husband didn't start a family, because that's two things that actually lock people out there. Because once you buy a house, it's mortgaged for the next 30 how many years. You have children, they are in the system. So I was like, look, no, this is not for me. I was becoming very... So when I sat in front of the psychologist, he asked me, Miss Dankor, could you tell us, asking me all this. I said, did anybody abuse you? Is there a problem?
Do you want a salary raise?
I went to see him 3 times. I said, no,
you just want to go home.
This system is just not for me. I want to go back home. But are you going to leave all this? You didn't even school in this. You don't owe. You don't have school loans to pay.
You don't have none of that to pay. So why are you going?
Back? I said, I think I wanted the experience. I've got it. Almost 3 years. I want to leave. So he said, you know what? I know you're going to come back soon. I'm not going to take your name off.
Wow. Your job is still open.
Anytime you come back, the door is open. Come back to us. And then I left. When I was coming back to Ghana, I didn't have a plan B. Nothing. The money I had made over the 3 years, when I came back, put some in investment. And then the first 2 years, I did my master's in public health.
Wow.
If I was to do my master's in public health in the USA whilst working, the amount of money,
you would have
everything. Did the same thing with the little money that I brought, and within the next year, I opened my own community pharmacy. Was I going to be able to do that with my 6 figures? So one time, I was going for a public health class, and my colleague from GSK at that time, Lord, he called and said, TDK, Mama Tess, have you seen this ad? And at that time, my husband had also seen it. Have you seen this ad? I said, what ad? What ad? Look at the ad and call me. Do you want it? I know you can do it. I said, yeah, but I've been out of the... Don't forget being out of the system. I know you can do it. They are looking for... I hear they are looking for a woman. I hear they are looking for a woman. So bring your CV. I'll take it. So Lord just pestered me. And thankfully, I've had a partner who has always pushed me, even for the Masters in Public Health. He saw the ad in the paper. He said, look, you're back. Whilst you're waiting to get a job...
just get this on.
Why don't you do this? I was like, I don't know. And when you come back, you almost feel like a failure, even though I wasn't. But I'm like, okay.
Because everyone kept moving while you were away.
Yes, everybody kept moving. I was like, no, I need to. So I said, okay, let me just do this. And then he said, no, you can do it. I was like, oh, I don't know. I went, inquired about it. Yeah, and then I got accepted. So I started the master's. And then whilst doing that, I got the call for the interview, to go and interview for GlaxoSmithKline.
Wow.
And then, Lord had already given me the intel that they were looking for a woman. So I prepped, did all the research, virtually aced the interview.
And then you got in there.
And I got in
What few words will sum up your experience at GSK?
GSK cannot be few words, Rev. Because GSK, I spent almost 12 years in
12
GSK.
years there.
Yeah, but GSK, I will say GSK actually propelled my career in this country. Because I started as a medical representative responsible for childhood vaccines, adolescent vaccines, and then especially the cervical cancer vaccine.
I think that's where I knew you. Yes, the adolescent health. I remember. I'm going to tell you about it after we're done, but I think that's where I know you from.
Okay. Yeah. So I was actually recruited for that, and I went through the mail. Again, the first promotion I had in GSK. It wasn't really an official one because of my performance as a female medical rep, because it was still a big deal. They actually employed 2 or 3 more ladies to join me. And then what my boss, Mr. Mainu, at the time did, he just created a portfolio such that our target clients were going to be pediatricians, ONG, things, maternal and child health focused. And then he said, oh, Mrs. Galley, okay, so do you know what? You're going to be the pediatric lead of these. So they used to call us the women in Baku in JSK.
And that's what it's about.
Yes, and I said, oh, no, we are not going to be reserved as in Baku. And we performed like nobody's business that year, with that team. And so when I was able to do that as a pediatric lead, I got my official promotion as a district salesman.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Yes, so with that you are responsible for reps and everything. It was very multidimensional. Again, very tasking. You're a manager, but then even now I tell my team, can you guys take me out when I want to be out there on the field.
You have stuff.
I don't want to be boss lady. I want to be out there on the field. And so with that, you have territories you manage. So I have reps in Accra, Takrade.
Report back
so
to
you have to travel and go and see what they're doing, and also make sure you generate the business over there and all that. And then from the district sales manager, I became the operations manager.
Yeah, the top boss.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. But operations blew everything open, because an operations manager, you are the nerve wire, and you're right down to if toothbrush is needed at the office, it's you, everything. And I was responsible for the placing orders for Ghana. So you deal with different manufacturers.
The inventory, they tell you everything.
Inventory, forecasting, everything, whilst managing the team down. You were like the shadow of the country lead.
But it obviously paid good too.
It was okay.
It was manageable.
It was okay.
It was enough to get you going.
It was okay. Yes. So So operations was something else. I'll tell you the operations manager role though. As usual, you don't think you can. Not that I didn't think I couldn't, but I thought there was another candidate who had been in that organization. In fact, he trained me at some point. So I remember when I got the role, one of my colleagues used to say, you've taken your supervisor's job, and now you are supervising
your supervisor.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm not even going to put in a bid. It was an internal role. I'm not going to, because I feel he's due to go. And then people are, what are you doing? Come on, add your CV to it. I did. We went for the interview. They flew in people, everything, and then the announcement came. Look, when I walked out of my boss's office, when I was told that you could hear a pin drop, everybody was shocked. What?
How?
how? No, it should be him. You know, and you could cut through the tension with a knife. It was so thick, and they just couldn't help it. And I was like, okay. That's when I got introduced to office politics. And it is real.
It's real. It exists.
It is real, you know, because all the odds are against you. And I said, okay, here begins another adventure. I can't.
You don't have room to fail.
No.
You can't make mistakes. You can't throw yourself in the lion's den.
No, I cannot. Because then, we said it.
Yeah.
How could she have done it when he was supposed to be in line for it? So it was very challenging.
Yeah.
And to make it even more challenging, I get the role, how many months? And then I get pregnant with my son.
Wow. It's weird how my next question was going to be, how do you balance, family work? And I use the word work because it's a whole duty on its own. How are you able to run through that?
Yeah, so continuing the story before answering your question, and then it was a difficult or a threatened one. So doctor looks at me and says, you have to...
You need an excuse duty, right?
No, excuse duty is 3 days, you go back.
Okay.
You have to be on bed rest till you deliver.
Wow. And that's months.
That's the no baby, no home syndrome. I said, doc, no, you don't understand what you're talking about. I've just gotten a role that is so...
The odds are all against you.
No. She said, well, it's
this or that.
I've had a very supportive family.
Wow.
So of course, I've spoken about my parents. I've had a very supportive husband. Shout out to you.
I know he's locked into the show.
Mr. Galley himself.
Yeah, boss. We did salute you.
It's amazing because you talk to colleagues, you talk to friends. When you are driven as a woman, when you are very purposeful, when you have a very strong, it's not very easy to live with. It's not very easy to be encouraged by a man, somebody, your partner or your husband. But he's always done that.
Special,
even today, and then he asks me, okay, so how are you going to answer when they ask you something like that? I'm like, chill.
It's all soft work for her.
Yes. Wow. He's very supportive, and that keeps me very grounded. I know he has my back. He's never questioned my my ability as a mother, because for me, early on, I learned how to balance it very effortlessly. I always tell the girls I mentor, when you see me now, you see me at work and you see me at home, you might not even recognize who I am, because as soon as I drive or get to the gate of my home, I take off the CEO hat and I put on my domestic hat. It doesn't change who I am. We need to have balancing acts as women.
That's beautiful.
We need to, and I've been able, thank God, to be able to balance it so effortlessly. It's going well, because when you are so career driven and you are not really domestic focused, and then that's where the challenges come in. I've had help. I've had extreme help.
You seek for help too.
Yes. That's the thing. You need to serve to be served. So from my parents, my brother, my aunties, my in-law, my mother-in-law.
Just ask for help when they can. They will.
Especially with the children. Look at my line of work. I was out of my home every other week, sometimes every other month. That I have to go out, go out of the country, all in the name of work. I couldn't have risen up the ladder if I didn't have a solid support team back home. So I've had that. But again, like I said, it's because I also chose to balance it. You do not sit on your high horse or ride on it and say, okay, you are one of my aunties, she calls me boss lady. Because you are a boss lady, you are a boss at home. No. All these shouts about feminism, and you are the woman of the home. And you can compliment the man beautifully when you know what to do, how to do it, what to say, how to say it. It's, of course, I didn't wake up like this as a wife. It was a learning curve for me as well. Because sometimes when you are very strong-willed and strong character, it gets in the way. So you need to tone down. You need to, relax. I'm a go-getter. Some people even describe me as having OCD. I want it done now, this way. I had to balance. I had to adjust and to be able to make it work. So it's not been easy. It's still a work in progress after how many years? But it's still a work in progress, So these are the things I also, you see somebody, I like the way we do. I didn't just become like this overnight. We've had our challenges. We've had our trial moments. Trust me, we've had our trial moments. But you just need to, it's an adventure. It's a challenge. How do we overcome it? And then how do I get to do that? Still become a mother, still become a wife, still become, a boss lady.
The boss lady.
Exactly. You get it. So that's how it works.
Mrs. Galley, thank you so much. I think we've said so much. Because of time, we'll have to wrap up. But I can't leave without talking about SFH. Briefly, tell us what the main focus areas are, within the health value chain, system for SFH, and then what ways through which you think the country, the public and the people around us can support the programs and efforts of SFH. I personally know about it, but how do you think we can rope in support from all angles of the country to make it work?
Okay, so Society for Family Health, we are a Pan-African organization, meaning we are here, we are in Nigeria, we are in Gambia, we are in Sierra Leone, Liberia. Gambia is now coming on board. So we have a very fundamental task. We want to create change, we want to enhance life. We are an NGO, and even you asked about being intentional. I chose being this intentional, coming to development work and applying my public health certificate, if you can call it, because I wanted to be more present in my children's lives, so that I want to do something that will not take me away. So I had to gradually move from commercial farmer, because commercial farmer had taken me from the bottom to the top. If I had to go out, I had to go and sit in Kenya and manage 3 countries, away from home, away from my children. They are growing. They need mommy in their lives. So I chose to do this intentionally. And for us, the focus areas are family planning and reproductive health, HIV and AIDS prevention and its management, malaria treatment and management as well, and then safe water systems, now non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension. And we do this through social marketing. What is social marketing? We bring in same pharmaceutical products, but at a very accessible, affordable, but these are quality products.
Subsidized.
Yes, heavily subsidized. When we say accessible, meaning a donor somewhere has paid for it, or a philanthropist has paid for it. So if you ask me, how can people help us? If you go to our website, you see donate. It's not every time that the big, agencies like USAID or FCD or all these big development partners. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation started as a foundation. Of course, Bill Gates is rich, but I hear people having foundations. We've got our own set of rich people in this world, even if you are not, and you will actually identify with the cause. Because look, when you go down to the community level, I always tell people that is the Ghana. It is not Tema, it is not Accra, it is not Accra Mall.
It's not East Legon.
No, it's not East Legon. No. Go to Amasaman, just a few minutes away here. That is the real Ghana, where health workers, I will talk my hearts to them on anything.
My wife is a nurse, so I understand.
Oh, bless her.
They have to go through a lot.
And they virtually have nothing to work with. Just a few tools they are given. Sometimes you visit these weighing clinics and you see the mothers, and the nurses. Sometimes nurses have to take money out of their pockets and pay for paracetamol for these mothers. That is the real Ghana. So for our cause, we say we want to impact the health outcome of that mother, of that child, of that HIV person. And we saw the statistics this year. First 6 months, 23,000 new cases alone in Ghana. That is those that we have tested. When was the last time anybody tested? You say, oh, my wife has a child.
No, I did April. I did in April.
Good.
Yes, I did in April. I think on my birthday I was hospitalized, so I had to check. They didn't know what was wrong with me, so I had to check.
Yeah.
I've been off for a while. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Know your status.
Yes.
It's one of the most important things. Know it. They are managed. No, look, the people living with HIV and AIDS.
It's not a death sentence.
It is
They're
not.
living.
In fact, they even look more nourished than we are because if you are diligent with your life and the drugs that you are on, you can live. They are marrying. They are having children. It's manageable. So that's what we do. We use social marketing, using social products to make sure that these areas, lives are impacted in these areas. So, for example, reason why we are partnering Global Media Alliance, we just went through World Contraception Week. We are actually preaching the concept of contraception. Why are we doing that? Because beyond unintended pregnancy, STIs.
Yeah.
We talk about HIV, which technically is a sexually transmitted infection, but the chlamydias and the gonorrheas and all the others are really, really, causing a lot of damage and causing infertility and all that. And unfortunately, girls going into unsafe abortions and all that. So
it's HPV, all these ones that are
cervical
not
cancer. So for we are pro-health. But we don't also just choose these focal areas. These are areas that are public health burdens. Even COVID-19, SFH was very instrumental during that time, sending messages of how to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols, making sure that communities were provided with the tools, the hand sanitizers, clean and safe drinking water. So we have a product that is chlorine based. When I saw
chlorine Aburi.
Took me back to Aburi. You just put into your water. It's safe for drinking, for domestic use.
At least now that Galamsey is depleting all our water bodies, things like this are needed.
That menace just needs to be kept. That's a conversation that when we start with, it just needs to be. And we all know those responsible for need to come out. They need to take the blame. They need to step aside. It's impacting on our societies. And like I said, Ghana is 70% what we don't see. 30% is the Tema, Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi. 70% is everything up north. And if you look at what a simple mother has to go through to raise a child that probably unfortunately is saddled with a health, it's just too bad. So that is what we stand for. So we have our line of male condoms. We try and make it exciting for the youth to use.
I know people listening know you for that.
If you know flex, I beg forget.
My producer said the condom lady.
In fact, I was
yes.
One of my bosses early on told me, if you are identified by your brand, you've done a good job.
Oh, yes.
When I was handling the cervical cancer vaccine and way back in GSK, I still get calls. Hello, is this Theresa? Are you still?
Yeah.
And I know my work is done. If you are identified by your brand, you've done your job. So people don't even know you by the condom lady.
Condom lady.
Madam
So
Condom.
Yes.
It's
been a wonderful morning with a condom lady. Yes. For those who know as a condom lady. But thank you so much, Nana, for joining us. How do people join SFH? Is it open?
So we are open for volunteers because we have a lot of community activations. Volunteers, you come in, we take you through a whole training. We can go out, speak to them for the activities that we are engaged in. Yes, they can join. And then, of course, when there are vacancies open for the positions, so based on the project we recruit. All right.
Mami, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful morning with Mrs. Theresa Maame Ekua Galley. She's a registered pharmacist by profession. She holds a master's degree in public health and is an active standing member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, the National Association of Boards for Pharmacy in the USA, from the state of Delaware. I've had a wonderful morning with her. Enjoyed every bit of it. We took all the time on the show for this. I literally have just 2 minutes to wrap up, but final words from you. Anything else you'd like to add, advice to young people listening?
So for me, one advice that I took on as a young woman that has helped, and I will keep on passing it on to young women, young people. We need to combine the knowledge that we have with integrity. My mother always used to say that book knowledge will take you to the top, but lack of wisdom will bring it back down. So what I will say is everything that we do, it doesn't matter whether you are the one supposed to sweep the floor, arrange the books, everything you are asked to do as a person, you have to do it diligently. But you have to also apply wisdom and integrity. We also, this year, the taxi driver who returned that money, what were the odds? What were the odds if he had kept it? He would have only kept that money. But when he returned it, look at the doors that opened for him. A lot of people don't work with a lot of integrity these days. We have to be able to do that. And for everything that we are doing as young people, we should add a humane. Sometimes we are a little robotic about it. Just let me come and do my work and go. We are humans. In fact, the most difficult role I have had to play is human resource, managing people, But then I also want to be remembered for developing excellent talent, and developing people. And for the woman who was never afraid to say no, took on a challenge head on, and then went for it. And as young people, let us apprentice. Let us sit at the feet and then learn.
All right, let us sit at the feet and learn. It's always good to learn. If you don't learn, you don't grow. 12 on the dot. Thank you so much, Mrs. Theresa Maame Ekua Galley, my guest for this morning's Wiley the Board series.